during the Q&A period. And if you're on your phone, you can press *6 to mute yourself. Okay, so I'm just gonna, did someone press record? Maybe Aaron or anyone else?
Yeah.
Or should you
Joni,
did?
I got
Okay,
recording going.
awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so just a few brief details about AMATS. What is AMATS? We are, stands for Anchorage Metropolitan Area Transportation Solutions. We are the local metropolitan planning organization for this area. This is our boundary map on the left. So we serve all of the Anchorage area as well as Chugach and Eagle River. We are federally funded. And we are a transportation planning agency. We work in compliance with Federal Highways Administration and the Federal Transit Agency. So those are the two main government organizations that we are regulated by. Just a couple brief safety initiatives that we've been working on already. Again, as I mentioned, we have a safety plan that's in the works. We are actively funding a safety campaign every year for the next 4 years. We have it programmed into our TIP. We also do prioritize projects through our planning to identify crucial safety areas, like in this example here, our priority pedestrian corridors identified for the downtown area. We also have a complete streets policy and an upcoming complete streets plan, and we have ongoing education and outreach that we are funding. So this is going to be our first live poll. So just to keep everyone engaged here, if you pull out your phone, if you don't have your phone, hang on 1 second, but go ahead and get that QR code. I'm going to pull up my screen to show our live poll here. See it? Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. So here's we're going to live show these answers as they come in. So if you haven't,
Gold Legion, John Jetwood, Aaron started recording.
what's that? Oh, Charlie. I think Charlie, you might need to mute yourself.
Joni, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how I muted myself. Okay, so just a couple more minutes to log this QR code. I know we've got about 19 or 20 folks in the forum already, so we'll just hang out for a second. So this is our first live poll. So it looks like we have a lot of interested residents, some transportation professionals, and a couple safety professionals. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. We do have one more question in this live poll, or this particular one. Okay, so I just want to, we're going to do a word cloud here. So what are 3 words that describe why transportation is safety is important to you? So seems like our folks, oh, there we go. Great. And we'll be saving these. We'll be saving these as we go along so we can report on them later. Yeah, awesome. Confidence, ethics, persuasiveness, health, life, recreation, empathy, crashes, well-being. And the way this word cloud works too, so the more, if there's more than one response for a word, it becomes bigger. So you can see kind of what folks think is most important. So it looks like health is a big one. Community, crashes, priority. Great. Excellent. Okay, thank you guys. We're gonna do one more live poll real quick, and then I'm gonna let the presenters start. Oh yeah, this is cool. This week keeps coming in. So awesome, that's great. So we're gonna do one more live poll. I'm gonna go to the next, actually, never mind. We'll do this. go back to here. Okay, so I think you guys can get this QR code from the corner down here. You don't need to see the big one on my screen. So let's go ahead and answer this one. So what neighborhood do you live in? So where are folks dialing in from tonight? Nice, Sand Lake. Oh, great. Eagle River, Rogers Park, Airport Heights. Yes, lot of representation at Airport Heights. University, Russian Jack, Turnigan. Awesome. This is exciting to see so many folks at tonight's meeting from all these different areas. Oh, Fairview, awesome. Okay, great. About Fortune responders. Okay, we're going to keep on moving because we got lots of presentations. So I'm going to go ahead and we got one more question. How often do you ride your bike, walk, or take transit during the week on average? Okay. Oh, great. So yeah, it looks like we've got a lot of we've got good representation tonight from bikers and walkers. Excellent. Okay, great. Like I said, we'll be logging these answers and saving them to incorporate into our follow-up survey. So thank you guys. There's going to be one more live poll a little later on in the agenda. And so now I think what we're going to do is we're going to move ahead to the first presentation, which is our BPAC presentation. Daryl, would you like me to share your slides, or are you ready to screen share?
You can go ahead and share them.
Okay, you want me to do it? Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be fine. I can do
Okay.
either one.
No worries. Okay, here we go. And then I'll do slideshow, and you can just let me know when to progress.
All right.
right.
Well,
All right.
good evening. My name is Daryl Hess, and I'm currently the chair of the AMAX Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Next slide, please, Joni. So the purpose of our safety forum is to define the problems for people on foot and wheels and review safety survey results. Get everyone in the room and on the same page, identify what works, what are the gaps, possible solutions, and how you, members of the public, can engage in the process. BPAC, one of our primary focuses is improving safety for pedestrians and bicycles in Anchorage and advising AMATs when it comes to planning projects regarding, safety is an important a part of what we look at. The outcomes for tonight would be to create a summary report, based on what we hear, and use that report to inform the AMAT's safety plan that is currently being developed. Next slide, please, Joni. Tonight we're going to have the presentations and topics we're going to see tonight is a presentation by the Bicycle and Pedestrian, the BPAC Advisory Committee, the municipality's Traffic Engineering Department, Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities. We're going to hear about the AMAT safety campaign. This is something that, a lot of people in the community have been advocating for many years. We're going to review the AMAT safety plan, which is being developed right now, and which we really need as much community involvement as possible. And then we're going to have a discussion and a question and answer. Next slide, please, Joni. So a lot of people, when I say I'm a member of BPAC, and people look at me and kind of scratch their heads and go, what is BPAC? So the BPAC, we are an official committee of AMATs And we act as a community forum for bicycle and pedestrian issues in the AMATS area related to AMATS planning efforts. We promote public participation in planning. That's the key to AMATS, successful transportation planning is to maximize community involvement. We provide review and comment on bike and pedestrian planning issues. We look at proposed projects and offer our opinions. We help prioritize bicycle and pedestrian planning. The BPAC consists of 11 voting members. We're all volunteers. It includes public members, representatives of bicycle, public health, disability services, environmental, and social services organizations, and representatives of the school district and businesses. And I will say, we are all 11 of us are passionate about bicycling and walking, and if you bicycle and walk a lot in this community, you see firsthand the opportunities to improve safety. I last year walked 2,000 miles and biked 1,000, and being out there on the streets, you will see, that there are opportunities to improve safety, which is one of the purposes of this forum, is to hear from the public and to help inform the safety plan that's being developed. Next slide, please, Joni. How can the public engage with us? Well, the BPAC meets quarterly, March, June, September, December, on the second Monday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We will hold special meetings as needed. If we need to comment on a proposed plan, or there's issues in the community that can't wait till our next meeting, we may hold a special meeting. We may hold a work session to look at different plans. All of our meetings right now are virtual using Microsoft Teams. All BPAC meetings, all meetings of AMATS are public meetings and are publicly noticed. There's a public comment opportunity at all BPAC meetings. So at all BPAC meetings, the public has an opportunity to comment and provide their thoughts and perspectives. For more information regarding BPAC, you can go to publicinput.com/S4578, or frankly, just Google BPAC Anchorage and it'll bring up our page. Next slide, please, Joni. And that is it for me. And there's more information. There's an address for AMATS. Once again, just Google AMATS Anchorage and it will bring up the AMATS page on muni.org. There's information about all the AMATS committees and all the opportunities for public comment. There is so much opportunity for the public to comment. And one thing I will say on behalf of the BPAC, and I will even speak for other AMATS committees, we want to hear more feedback, more comments from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate that. Okay, great. Well, we're going to keep moving on. And there was a one slight mistake with that agenda. We are going to put Scott Thomas in front of Brad from MOA Traffic because I think Brad may be running a little bit late. I know he's coming from another meeting. So Scott, are you here and are you ready? I'm sure you are. There you are. And Scott,
Yeah.
by the way, I just have to take a minute to shout out. Scott's retiring after how many years?
33 here and a couple more before that.
33 years with the DOT. And I have to say, we have enjoyed working with you so much. You are the nicest, most awesome person to work with. So thank you for all those years, and we'll really gonna miss you. And I hope you have amazing time in retirement. But I know we got you on the hook for this one last thing, so thanks. Okay, do you want me to load your presentation?
You can, or I can share my screen, whichever.
You can share. Okay, go ahead and try and share your screen, and I'll take a little break from that. Yeah.
Does this show?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you, Joni, and thanks, Daryl. Just a quick snapshot of what we see at the DOT side, which is really working with the municipality. We all agree we have a serious problem. This shows you crash types in Alaska statewide, and 20% of all crash fatalities in Alaska are pedestrians. And then you see the other crash types on this chart with bicyclists being about much less than that on crash fatalities. However, I'll go to the next slide, and you start to see the same over 100 of each crash type and the same high injury rate of 85% for each. And the point of this slide on the left is, of all boroughs in the state, Anchorage is the high crash area for the state. So the state is trying to work on that with the municipality. And what you see on the right is that at a national level, the focus is on all parts of the system. It's definitely the road environment, which I've highlighted in yellow. It's also speeds and speeding. And then this is a national table, the vehicles and vehicle types, the users, all users, some doing good things. And then today I saw different users of all different types not making the best choice. And then post-crash care, EMS care is very valuable, as we all know, in the first hour of just keeping things from being fatal. And we've worked a lot together, Joni, and with the city traffic section, and we're all seeing the same thing that we've talked about. Arterial roads is highlighted in yellow here. It's the high crash locations. And then the point of this slide is that as a community, we've all invested even for many, many decades in these green type squares, in bridges and green belts and ways to cross with less conflict and huge investments. There's more than 70 structures here. So can we as a community put the same focus or effort into these high crash areas that we put into our green belts in our schools, our shoulders on roads? And we've built some bike lanes, but what's next? And we're hearing you. Protected bike lanes, road diets are coming for roads like 15th Avenue did, but also Fireweed Lane. And then I saw the survey, more crossings are definitely in our future. And this will just be about just a few slides, but pedestrians or bicyclists, but especially pedestrians with the more serious fatal crashes and hospitalization, it's a darkness problem nationally, and it happens in the fall months when there's not snow. And so the number one thing we can do is see each other and react to each other. It's cheaper than building whole new roads. So what we're also seeing in the stats is that hit and run driving is a huge problem, and that's a behavior problem. There's something going on there. It's 30% of the fatal crashes. And then, so darkness, hit and run driving, and then crossings not at signals. That just means there need to be more crossings in the AMATS plan. So I saw the survey, more visibility, more lighting, and we're doing that. And there's a list of roads right here in the middle of the screen. Tudor, Muldoon, Gamble is in design, moving those utility poles, Merrill Field, Minnesota Drive and Seward Highway in Midtown. They're getting millions of dollars of lighting that in some of these areas is going to double the light levels on the sidewalks themselves and see people before they're even in the road. And then you've noticed that we've put in medians on those roads and basically eliminated vehicle space so that people can cross with one direction of traffic at a time. And it doesn't necessarily make it all legal, but we're trying to separate conflicts. And just watching the survey, working on our biggest intersections, Tudor and C, Diamond and C this last summer, we're making big intersections smaller. We're making crossing distances shorter wait times at the signal come out of that. And the turns are actually slower for left turns and right turns if we do it with these kinds of angles. And we even have a long history working downtown with bulb outs. Just a couple more things we're doing. One is in the future, there's going to have to be more crossings, not just the existing signal crossings. And the AMATS plan on the last slide will show that we'll have to get there. The national criteria is a high amount of use per crossing, but some of our lower threshold criteria is 20 users per hour crossing, which is getting into the vicinity of many places like the rescue mission area, and downtown will be even higher numbers than this. Even out in Bethel, we have 60 crossings an hour in some places. The big problem that we all saw in every year is, and just to let you know, we've heard it, is winter maintenance, keeping the facilities open. The big thing we all have to know about that is that comes from local funding, state funding. It is not federal funding. Plowing equipment, plowing drivers, it's up to us as residents to find the resources for that. We actually had more equipment than we have now and more operators. So the will is there to do more, but we've been chopped just enough that the only way we're going to get more is to fund more. And it could be building on each other's strengths. The Muni has equipment for the lower speed roads and lower speed equipment, and we have different types of equipment. So it's always a meeting that our two agencies have is how to do better. Two more pictures and I'll turn it back to you. Is this is what a typical arterial cross section has been in Anchorage. And the point is there's not a lot of space left to do anything. And if we do re-envision it as a road diet, it's a very expensive storm drain and utility space. Hopefully with the AMAS plan, we can work on areas around the arterials where we have more space. We can, if we retool some of the arterials, we're gonna have limited budgets, and we have to look at what we can do. We're talking about urban safety corridors with the municipality, and we're talking about more crossings. And on this last slide, we're steering by the plan. We're steering by AMATS. If AMATS has a priority network for peds and bikes, that's the starting point. That's the vision for us, and the crossings will come from that. And if as we do projects, if we get new ideas, they can maybe amend the plan, but sometimes we get asked to do new things with new projects that go into the budget and defer some of following the plan. So my thought here is we do got to keep coming back to this, trying to stay on track. And I will stop there, Joni. That's all the slides.
Oh, great. Thank you, Scott. I'd love to see our AMATS non-motorized plan maps up there. I know you all worked closely with us in developing that plan, and we're excited that you're implementing with it. That's great. Okay, thank you, Scott. Next up, we've got Brad. Brad, are you on the line? No? He may be running a little bit late. We may have to skip over him and go to our next presenter. Let me just pull up. I think that would be actually well, actually, you know what we could do while we're hanging on? Why don't we just do that second live poll? I'm going to do that. So let me go back to my screen here. There we go. All right, we got another poll here, folks. So here's the last and third poll that this one takes a little bit longer to answer. So go ahead and we got about 30 people in the room, I think, at this point. So we'll just give you guys a few minutes here to answer these four questions. So in your opinion, which of these investment areas are most important to improving safety for bicyclists and pedestrians? And rank the choices 1 to 4. And if you're on your phone, you just have to scroll down to see the next question there. And this is a very similar question to one that we had on our survey that I'll go over sort of towards the end of the presentation. But it's I just thought I'd ask it again here since we've got everyone live. We can see. Still coming in. So it looks like maintenance and road design are close. Yeah, no, great. So got some more folks answering, but so yeah, it looks like these two top categories, those were very similar to the top categories that scored the highest in our AMAT survey that we put out. In that survey, we did have over almost 450 participants, and I believe that we had about 80% score maintenance of non-motorized facilities as their number one, and then the road design was the second highest scoring. So that's interesting. Okay, great. Well, we've got one more question. Gonna just buzz over this other slide. Okay, last question on the live polls. So what are 3 improvements to our transportation system that would make you feel more safe while walking and bicycling? So to your top 3 things that we could do to make going around on foot and on bicycle feel safer to you in our area. Okay, good. We got 2 responses so far. Crossings, protected paths, traffic calming, slower speeds, safer drivers, buffers. Seeing a lot of like separation of facilities. And again, interesting thing about these word clouds. So the bigger letters are the ones that are getting more repeats from our crowd today. So it looks like scoring high. Again, we've got better winter maintenance and protected bike lanes, slower speeds, winter maintenance, camera ticketing. Great. Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you guys. We still have some answers coming in, 21 folks so far. Yeah. Okay, this is great. Like I said, we're saving all this data and we're gonna include it in our report when we do our report, and we will have it for folks so they can see how people rank these and how they what they thought would make them more safe in our city. Okay, thanks a lot. All right,
great. Thanks for having us. Hi, everyone. I'm Juan Lee with R&M Consultants. And Taryn Alton-Yell is also with me here tonight. And I think I saw Jeannie Bowie with Kinney Engineering, who's also on the AMAT Safety Plan team. So I'm actually pinch hitting, or I'm Nicole Waldheim, who is the National Safety Planning expert for the project. And she's with Farron Piers. She couldn't make it tonight, so we're just providing everyone with an update. So thanks for having us. And next slide. All right, so what is safety planning? Actually, Scott did a really good job to tee this presentation up, so thanks, Scott. But what is safety planning, or specifically, what will this plan do? I know we do safety planning in all of AMAT's plans, all of the plans that we've ever worked on, all the design projects. Safety is at the forefront, but a comprehensive and very specific safety planning process is what will give people in a region, a space, or forum to understand and to imagine what a future could look like without the threat of severe crashes. And the safety plan is going to look at all users, so drivers, bicyclists, pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, and those who use other forms of transportation, such as transit. A safety action plan is an opportunity to review safety-related data, and I appreciated all the slides that Scott went through. I think that is a really good background on some of the things that are going to go into the safety action plan. So things like crashes and demographics, and of course, land use is really important to understand what is contributing to crashes, and how do we come up with solutions or countermeasures to address those. Upon completion, the safety plan will provide a very specific roadmap and direction to reduce severe crashes through through the E's, right? We saw that through Vision Zero, but education, enforcement, and engineering solutions. It's a whole comprehensive look at safety action planning. Next slide. All right, so hope you guys have your phones out. You need to take a picture of this roadmap. There will be a quiz later. So how do we get from planning to action? This roadmap we have in front of you is really what is going to get this AMAT safety plan or safety action plan from the start or kickoff in February to recommendations and a completed plan by December 2023. Some of the major tasks that include in this roadmap are community engagement, stakeholder engagement. This safety forum, for example, is part of that process. Public engagement, which was done through the survey, which Joni's going to talk about later, and we'll have community workshops as well as more stakeholder meetings. Safety analysis, so taking the data approach as well as the qualitative, which is the public engagement and stakeholder engagement portion. And we will look through the data analysis, safety analysis, high crash locations, as well as locations that haven't experienced crashes, but where we'd like to be proactive with safety improvements and to identify specific solutions or countermeasures to address those needs based on amount of funding and equity considerations. Next slide. All right, so what have we done to date? We kicked this planning effort off in February, and then in March, we worked on a public involvement plan, how to engage the community, stakeholders, AMATS committees, and when we would do that, just to help establish and develop a process for the safety plan recommendations. We also started a stakeholder database. We had the website go up. I will show you a link at the end of the presentation, and that's where the survey was pushed out to the public. I think many of you took part in that survey. There was a very good response rate that will help inform the policies and recommendations and identifying the big major issues that will go into the safety plan. We did a plan coordination memo, and that's looking at all the different plans that have been developed that have safety as a component, and we're pulling it all into to help inform this plan. This is the comprehensive look at safety planning. We did preliminary analysis. Kinney Engineering took the lead on that, looking at crash trends, looking at trends and crash data at intersections. And then we're currently working on an equity overlay with the crash trends as well. That should be coming out here soon in an existing conditions report that will be released for all the stakeholders to review. We've already completed one stakeholder meeting in March 30th. Of course, we're here tonight at the safety forum. And then Joni will talk about this later, but the safety survey yielded 444 responses. So really good response rate and really good data to help inform the plan development. Next, please. Okay, so how does Vision Zero and the safe system approach, how does that work together as we work through this safety action plan? So the basic premise of Vision Zero is that no one should be killed or suffer lifelong injuries as a result of a roadway crash. And the safe system approach provides a tool or framework to help agencies be more intentional about addressing safe roads, safe road users, safe speeds, post-crash care, and safe vehicles in their plans and ultimately programs. And Scott had this same graphic in his presentation earlier. So these are national standards. So the underlying safe system approach also includes culture and equity. And this safety plan development process will be using this safe systems approach to frame the entire planning process. Let's see, next slide. All right, so there's quite a few existing plans. I think I saw some of these earlier in BPAC's presentation, but Anchorage Vision Zero, which I just talked about, there's the DOT Strategic Highway Plan, the non-motorized plan, the MTP, the TIP, of course, the 2040 Land Use Plan, the official streets and highways plan, and then the complete streets policy. So all of these identify opportunities to address safety, and they will be, the policies and programs and recommendations will be carried over into this safety plan for AMATs, the first one that's been developed. And so it'll be comprehensive, but it'll also ensure that the plans that have already been developed aren't just going to be forgotten. They will be carried over into this plan. All right, so so there are things that are going well in terms of the Anchorage AMATs transportation network, but this planning process will also identify any gaps and things that we want to ensure that are addressed as part of this planning process to further reduce severe crashes. We talked about this earlier, but for a safety program to be, sorry, Joni, are you on the next slide? I kind of moved ahead. There we go. Yeah, so where are the gaps? And this plan will help identify that. And if you go to the next slide, yeah, so the effective safety program includes all of these elements. They need to move the needle on, the plan needs to, the safety programs need to be successful, they need to move the needle on severe crashes. And several of these elements need to be in place for that to be successful. Safety needs to be a priority for not just the traveling public and transportation agencies, but also in our individual jobs as responsibilities. We talked about this at the first stakeholder meeting, but leaders need to be brought in and be supportive of safety efforts. Plans need to be developed using inputs and considerations of transportation safety. So it really needs to be ingrained in our everyday lives and in our jobs, regardless if we work in transportation planning or safety or engineering or design. Crash and other data need to be available and utilized to make informed decisions. And projects should be executed with safety policies and countermeasures in mind. The safe systems approach, which I mentioned earlier, should be used as a tool to guide decision making, and it shouldn't be an afterthought, but safety should be at the forefront using this safe systems approach. And then this is the last slide, but our next steps for the safety action plan, we are planning another stakeholder meeting in June. The date is being worked on right now, so that those invitations should be sent out soon. We're planning a public workshop in September of 2023. I mentioned the existing conditions that is currently being developed and should be out in June as well, hopefully prior to the stakeholder meeting, so that you have a chance to review that before we go to that stakeholder meeting. And then Kinney Engineering is working on an intersection crash analysis. I mentioned that earlier, in a trends report, and that should also be hopefully substantially complete by June, so that we can also release that for public and stakeholder review. And then we have this excellent website that we've developed for the plan, the safety plan. Joni, are you able to click on that?
Yeah, sorry to jump in just real quick. This is the safety plan website. So it's on our new public input tool that AMATS has, which is an awesome tool we're using. We have, so the home site is here. You can scroll down and see documents if you want to look at something specific that we've loaded. So again, we have like our public involvement plan that you can see. We've got our stakeholder meeting summaries and agendas. The plan schedule, if you want to kind of get an overview of where we're at. Again, as Juan mentioned, we're through most of this part here. We've done our first stakeholder meeting and survey. We have an upcoming meeting in June, and we're hoping to finish the plan sometime around December. And then also a link to get involved. And this website is where I'll be loading the follow-up survey for this safety forum. So when you log on tomorrow, we'll have it loaded tomorrow sometime, but when you log on here, you should see, right away on the home screen, a link to take the survey to follow up on the forum and next steps. So yeah, I just took over a little bit, but hopefully that makes it clear for folks how to interact if they want to get involved in the safety plan. And then, Juan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that was a good segue if you want to talk about survey results now, or I think Brad Coy is on. He's
Okay,
ready for his
great.
presentation.
Yeah, maybe let's see what time is it? 6:52. I think we're doing okay on time, so I may just jump into the survey results. Just spend 10 minutes on those, and then we'll follow it up with Brad and then Marcia, and then that should leave us plenty of time to have a half an hour for discussion Q&A. So here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Sorry for the wait. You guys have been really patient. Appreciate it. Okay. So we'll just jump in here. So as Juan was saying on the safety plan, we did a big outreach survey. We reached at least 1,200, a little over 1,200 viewers. 444 of those people decided to participate in the survey. 10 decided to subscribe to our email list. That's we definitely want to aim for a higher ratio next time for that one. But we got 451 comments, which I didn't include in obviously the presentation tonight, but we will be printing out and we will have those included in the survey that will be posted on the website. So just scrolling through a few of these, it looks like the majority of our responders were interested residents, which is awesome. We have a good representation from transportation professionals and safety professionals. And then some questions about commute. So it looks like 82% typically drive. That's not a surprise for us in Alaska where it's snow most of the year. A lot of people drive most of the year, but pretty good percentage of people that are biking. And then 3% walking, 2% that take public transit. So it'd be great to get those two numbers up a bit. This question, it did log all of the neighborhoods, but if the neighborhood was represented under 3%, it just didn't show up on our key. So we're trying to figure out how to get it to show up on our key. So hopefully we'll figure that out. But for now, it was really interesting. We thought we had a ton of respondents from Eagle River and Chugiak area, which is awesome. So they were they're definitely engaged and involved, and we love to see that. And then, of course, Airport Heights, good representation. Abbott Loop, Turnagain, Rogers Park, Sand Lake, Russian Jack, Spenard, Midtown, Rabbit Creek. And then, again, as I mentioned, 30% are from other neighborhoods, but together made up less than, or alone made up less than 3%. So they didn't show up on the key, but that includes all the other neighborhoods represented. These are the questions that were pretty interesting to look at. So when do people feel safe? You know, do they feel safe in their neighborhood? So 71% of people feel safe walking during the daylight, which is pretty good. Is my neighborhood a safe place for walking? That's also seems fairly good. Where we get down to the lower numbers are, you know, at night. And then when it's dark outside, I'm always interested to see like how many respondents were women that responded to this one, or is this a majority of male respondents that feel safe walking at night? And some other really interesting, it looks like, yeah, riding bicycles on busy streets does not feel safe to most people. And then again, this correlates with our other responses, which we saw high need for protected facilities or separation of non-vehicle versus vehicle users. So this is really interesting. And again, just to save time, I'm kind of going to go through these quickly, but this category, so what we tried to do to make it a little bit more clear was to show, so here's the question: to what extent would any of the following make it more likely that you would choose to walk to get around your neighborhood? And so here's the thing that would be implemented. So on the left, the safer, conveniently located sidewalks. And what we did to try and make it a little bit more visually clear, where we were getting most of our responses, was just put in these bubbles or these circles. So the darker shade was the higher percentage. So it looks like in this particular one, we got a larger percentage of folks responding that this particular treatment, safer, conveniently located sidewalks, would make it more likely that they would that they would bike or that they would walk to get around their neighborhood. So again, fewer driveways, that didn't really seem to make a big difference to folks. Slower vehicle traffic speeds was sort of equally spaced out, which was interesting. More destinations within walking distance, that scored high. So neighborhoods where you have a lot of amenities close by is desirable for walking, obviously. More marked crosswalks also was important to folks. Better lighting, really important to folks. So great to see all that money that DOT is pouring into their lighting that Scott talked about earlier. Maps to showing routes to popular destinations, maybe not as likely right now, or who knows, that could change if we created a really cool map was created to show people all these cool destinations. Sidewalks that are well maintained. Again, maintenance scored really high. That is a big concern for folks, and it was pretty obvious that that was very important to them. ADA accessibility, this is an interesting one. I think it scored, if we just have a lower percentage of folks that are ADA with ADA needs, so it didn't score as high, but we also try to plan here at AMATS to make sure, and I know DOT does as well, but in the city, but just to make sure that we are incorporating ADA standard facilities. So again, question, to what extent would any of the following make it more likely that you would choose to ride a bike to get around your neighborhood? So reduced traffic speed, again, sort of scored evenly throughout, which was another interesting response. On-street bike lanes had also a kind of an interesting response, had a good showing here on the extremely likely, but then, maybe some folks, so maybe that speaks to the folks that are comfortable riding on street, the folks that aren't. And then off-street multi-use paths, everyone loves those, myself included. More crosswalks across busy streets, that had some interesting range to it as well. Better lighting, this was a very interesting response. That was different than the pedestrian, so maybe the lighting is not as much of an issue for bicyclists. Well, we're not sure, but classes where I can learn safe bike. So that was an idea, didn't really resonate with folks. And again, maps didn't really resonate as well. Bike lanes and multi-use paths that are maintained well in all seasons scored, again, high, a strong showing for better maintenance. And then bike parking was also important to folks. So zip through these last ones. So this is pretty much the same question I asked you guys in the live poll, but as you can see here, no, was it? No, sorry, this is not to that question yet. What do you think would work to encourage people using the transportation network to prioritize their safety and the safety of those around them? So what would work to prioritize safety? So how about road design scored really high, stronger enforcement, additional education, or well, these were the two highest scoring. So, but also education, more walking, biking tours, and some other coordinated communication. Yep. Refresher courses, some other ideas. And then the biggest challenges. Okay, so this was the one I was talking about before. Biggest challenges related to transportation safety are, again, so maintenance, again, scoring super high, 81%. Unsafe driving behaviors, Scott was mentioning earlier. Separation from vehicles, a separation of vehicles from non-motorized modes, and lack of bicycle lanes or other improvements to help bicyclists safely travel the streets, lack of crosswalks, and funding, and an other. So last two here. So in terms of investments, where should we be investing our money to improve safety? Again, winter maintenance, scoring the highest here. Maintaining sidewalks, maintaining trail network, and then adding or maintaining bicycle lanes, enforcing rules of the road were the top 5. And then these other criteria, or these other categories below. So I'm just gonna, we did have a map as well, which on our website, we'll have a link to this so you can actually go on and see all the pins and the comment related to the pin, but I didn't have time to obviously include those all in this presentation. So, and then we did some, lastly, did some logging of some demographic information. So age, so we had a big showing for those 36 to 45 and 46 to 55 were our two biggest. And then these two categories. We didn't have a great showing for 18 to 25. So we really love to get that up. We were thinking next time we could try and do a better job of getting responses from the university areas, and that maybe that'll help up that percentage a little bit. And then our ethnicity demographic question here, 80% of our responders are white. And then we also have American Indian, Alaska Native, Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish, and then other, and then some prefer not to answer. And then finally, our gender big showing from females. So yay, ladies, we won this competition. No, big showing from females, big showing from males, and some other respondents. So I know that was a little laborious, but I just wanted to go over those survey details. And like I said, we'll have those up on our website for you to look through along with all the comments. So you can view those for yourself. Okay, now I'm going to go over to Brad, who is, Brad, are you on the line?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. Awesome. And then do you need me to share my screen or are you good to share yours? Yes.
You would
Okay.
share
And
the
so you
screen.
gave me two presentations.
They're
So
the same one. One, yeah, PowerPoint.
Oh,
Whichever
okay.
here for you.
Okay, got it. Let me Brad presentation. Okay. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to start and I'm just going to check our time. It's 7:05, so I'll give you 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll go quickly.
Oh, security alert. Okay. All right, you're up.
Okay, so thanks. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Had a kids activity that went a little bit long. You know, end of the school, kind of everything going on, kind of crazy. But I'm excited to let you know what the Municipal Traffic Engineering Department is doing to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. We have a lot of great things going on. If you can go to the next slide, Joni. Okay, so first I wanted to give an update. So I'm the municipal traffic engineer. I've been at the city for 21 months now. Previously, 14 years as a traffic engineering consultant in both Alaska and Oregon. I've been commuting year-round by bike since April 2022, when my car broke down, and it's been awesome. I did commute by bike quite a bit in Oregon and hadn't quite taken the plunge in Alaska, but have since done so. It's provided a great way to get to know our infrastructure better, to see both pedestrian, bicycle, and motor vehicle experience around Anchorage. I also visited, you can see in my photo to the right there, 36 bike to work day stations last Friday, which was a super fun way to be able to get to know members of the community and see different parts of Anchorage and celebrate all the efforts that are being done to improve our bicycle network. Also, I've been assisting as the emphasis area lead for the Safe Roads and Safe Speeds emphasis area for the Alaska Strategic Highway Safety Plan. That's been a good experience, and I'm the president of the ITE Alaska section, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which has also been a great way to be involved in the community, and served on the Half Moon Valley Community Council Steering Committee before joining the city. So really enjoy being involved in the community and the grassroots efforts and listening to constituents and being involved. So that's a little bit about me. Go to the next slide, please, Joni. And so what's my vision? As we've heard today, the safe systems approach is a really important way to think about things. And it's not just a philosophy, it should actually be action. And so I'm going to talk about a few of the things that we're doing in this presentation. One of them is with dedicated staff. This is something that I'm pleased to say that my staff are working on, and I even have a new staff position that I'll explain a little bit. Also looking for ways to develop new bicycle and pedestrian design standards in conjunction with project management and engineering department at the city. So that's something we're looking into and starting to work on. Focus on implementation and not just about plans, but actually making things happen. And there are a lot of great current and upcoming planning and design efforts that are great opportunities to be involved. So I'm really looking forward to all of those that are going on, including the safety plan that was presented on and discussed. Go to the next one, Joni. Every year we do an annual traffic report. We're getting close into 2022, but the 2021 report is up to date and it's available online. You can see the link there. We look at the crash trends throughout Anchorage and other multimodal data. So if you want to see different bicycle usage, we do have trail counters and other information. So this is a great resource. Next slide, please. So just to give a quick update, so what's going on in Anchorage? One thing that's going on, can you advance? A few animations should come forward, I think, Joni. Yeah, so one of the trends that we're seeing is that pedestrian crashes have been fairly up and down consistent, but the last year, 2021, we did have an uptick in actual fatalities. So that's been a concerning statistic, and we should know in the next week or so what the statistics were for 2022. We're hoping it's not continuing that trend of being high, but there has been a lot in the news about that. So go to the next one, Johnny. The other thing that means is that 1 in 7 crashes in 2021 that involved a pedestrian resulted in a fatality. So this is very concerning, something that is top of mind. Vulnerable road users, this is why they're vulnerable, right? Because they get hit and chances are really high of there being fatalities. Go to the next one, Jenny. Okay, if you can advance a few. I should have removed the animation from this, but this shows some of the locations that are hotspots for pedestrian crashes. 15th and Gamble is significant. Seward to Glen Highway PEL study is targeting some of this. This is why it's such an important study, why it's important that we do things along Inker-Gamble corridor. You can also see Northern Lights in Benson. You can see some of downtown along 5th Avenue. The next slide. And this is just 2021. So I'm sure if you look at other years, you'll see similar trends. Okay, next slide. Bicycle crashes. Okay, advance if you would. It's been a generally downtrend. You can see that there are a lot of crashes for bicycles more in the summer months, likely because that's when there are a lot more cyclists. Our counters show a lot more cycling activity in the summer. So that's more just a matter of more people being on bikes. Okay, you can advance the next slide. Okay, the next one. So even though the trends are positive, they're going down, there are some hot spots for sure. So you can look and see that the Tudor and Seward Highway, kind of in that vicinity, Old Seward Highway has a pocket. Again, Northern Lights and Benson, those have a bunch. Muldoon, so can you advance? And there's going to be some boxes that pop up. Yeah. Okay, one more. And I think there's Muldoon and DeBar also show up with a few. So those are some of those 2021 trends that were had. Oh, I guess you can see kind of Spenard in Minnesota, which is being addressed by a current project as well. Okay, go to the next slide. The traffic data management system that that my department manages has all of the data in it. It's a great resource that you can be able to look at the data. So if you're not aware of that, I encourage you to go do some queries. You can draw boxes and it'll pull up all the crash data so you can see what the trends are. Look at the crash data, look at the volumes, and it has speeds and quite a bit of information on there. Okay, next one, Joni. One of the really exciting projects that we're working on is the Protected Bike Lane Pilot Project or Demonstration Project. This shows an example of what a demonstration could look like, where you have some separation that sorry, sounds like someone's had an alarm going off in my room, and who knows whose alarm it is. Okay, so go to the next slide. So protected bike lanes. What are protected bike lanes? They are street level, a barrier between cars and bikes. So posts, planters, concrete barriers. Also cycle tracks, another term that's used. They provide safety for all users. They add comfort for all age levels. Good for business placemaking. Also one of the things that's been found from studies is that the average spending per trip, while it might be a little bit lower, the average spending per month is up. So they're a promising option for benefiting both businesses and all users, protecting the non-motorized users and also having fewer road deaths for vehicular traffic. Okay, next slide, Joni. Here's the general concept. You can take a 4-lane road and turn the outside of 2 lanes into a buffer plus a bike lane. So this is kind of generally what we're thinking of with doing a protected bike lane pilot project. Not changing curbs, but instead just implementing something that can be temporary protection. Another option is where there is a buffered bike lane or a large travel lane next to a bike lane, being able to put up some protection. So these are some general things that we're considering. Okay, next slide, Joni. The project team includes DOT Research, which is providing funding, MOA Traffic. I have a role in that. Assemblymember Daniel Volland is also participating. Bike Anchorage has been integral. And then we are currently negotiating with Outreach and Design Consultant, who's expected to be under contract soon to be able to help us with this project. We're going to first do a demonstration project without snow, do a summer test. Depending on the results, we would consider future demonstrations under winter conditions. But we're trying to tackle those separately just because we need to figure out how it all works. And that's the purpose of this pilot project. As we're looking at different locations, the Pine Street, McCary Street looks like a pretty easy location to potentially do this year, even with a short timeline. There's not Fire Week, but Fireweed Lane. Sorry for that typo. Fireweed Lane project is one that we are coordinating with the project team that is about to come under contract with DOT to look at how to do Fireweed Lane. And then the consultant team is going to go through a process to select up to 3 streets and couplets that would be looked at for next summer. We're going to be considering bike network connectivity, business access, traffic safety, and other design challenges in that selection, with definitely a lot of outreach from the public. Okay, next slide. This is what the schedule's looking like. Getting a consultant under scope and budget the end of this month. Then having the consultant do feedback this summer, seeing if we can do a Pine Street, McCary Street protected bike lane this summer, and then doing a robust outreach through the fall, winter, so that we are ready for the temporary deployment next summer. envisioning likely downtown, midtown area, but we're open to other parts of the community, especially if any of you have roads that you'd like us to consider, please reach out, let us know. And then it is a research project, so there will be a lot of data collected during and before to be able to do before during studies and provide analysis in a research project. And the fireweed lane, we're doing coordination with that project team, the whole process to see about how that could play a role. Okay, next slide, Joni. And like I was saying, we have a new position, traffic calming pedestrian coordinator. This previously was traffic calming only, but we've been updated to include a pedestrian and bicycle emphasis. Currently working on a hiring decision. We had some great candidates that applied. So we should have that here in a few weeks, which is super exciting. This position will be focused on updating the design standards, like I mentioned, that we're developing, looking at the policy changes, program of implementation, thinking about traffic calming from a new perspective, particularly how we can do improved pedestrian bicycle facilities and how that affects traffic calming. You know, finding some ways for just all of these ideas to work together to make our system better for all users. So I'm really excited about this new position and what it will do for the city, including just prepared for implementation. It is funded with our bond funds, so it's really focused on implementation. That's what this position will need to be doing. So with that, I can take questions now, Jenny, or we can do questions later. I think I just hit 14 minutes.
Great. No,
That'd have
thanks, Brad. That was awesome. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and just save the questions for just a little bit longer. We're going to let Marcia present because she's still waiting, and then we'll take questions right after she's done. So thank you so much. And Marcia, I have been sharing my screen and doing this, so let me jump on my email real quick and load. I'm assuming you sent the presentation to me, so let me get it.
I did send it, but I think now I know how to do it, and it might be easier if I go ahead and try because I
Okay.
have some
Great.
video links. Let's see.
Yeah. Super. And I've got those video links too, and I can play those if you need me to.
Okay. Can you see the not slideshow version of the slideshow?
We see it in your power. There you go.
All right. Awesome. Okay.
Great.
Well, thank you. It's exciting to see so many people. I'm really excited to see so many people who filled out the survey because that information and that which we continue to collect will really help guide our work. I'm the executive director at Center for Safe Alaskans, and we've been around working in Anchorage, Alaska, nationally around the world since 1999. And I believe that Sam Gordon, who's our communication specialist, and Yevi Hale are both also on the call. They are key staff who are working on this initiative. So with the AMAT safety campaign, I really appreciate the information of the engineering. I know Scott Thomas is always gets that engineering is one piece and then behavior is another piece. And I think a lot of us think that and recognize that it's really challenging and it's not just a one fix thing. You know, like we were working on seatbelts were a great thing, but unless people use them, and that takes persuasion and behavior change to get people to use them. The same goes for drivers caring about pedestrians and cyclists also, and bicyclists paying attention. So changing attitudes, changing behavior are also components of the safe system work and are really important. I'm going to start with one of the things we just worked on, and Sam, over the last 2 weeks, we couldn't really do this until we had some decent weather, creating a couple of initial campaigns initial videos that were, it's kind of a sneak preview of the idea that changing culture is not it's going to happen today, but this is the piece of the campaign is working towards changing culture. And I'm going to show you one of the videos that works towards that, which is kind of creating connections in the community between drivers and pedestrians. And that's the start. Looking at the data, our initial focus is going to be on pedestrians. So let's see if this works.
This is my husband, Daniel, and this is my service dog, Loki. Well, for me, I just really enjoy being outdoors. I consider nature to be one of my happy places. So I try to get out and join my husband and Loki on walks as much as I can, or just taking the time to be out in my wheelchair, stroll up to Fred Meyer's or one of the other stores that we happen to live close by and get some exercise and save on gas. As a wheelchair user, being a pedestrian can often be dangerous. It's tough to cross the street because curb cuts are often not well maintained or simply non-existent. Sidewalks, also, they're not well maintained here in Anchorage, or the city uses them for snow removal. So I often have to roll along the side of the street, which is dangerous because vehicles, especially big trucks, can't always see me, and that's scary. My hope is for Anchorage to become more accessible for everybody. We need better maintained streets here in Anchorage and cleaner sidewalks so that pedestrians feel safer being outdoors and navigating Anchorage. And we need for drivers to be more conscientious about their surroundings and to slow down and obey all traffic laws so that the streets are safe both for vehicles and pedestrians.
Awesome. Yes, do you want me to play the other videos, Marcia, or did you just want to do one?
I could do one for now, and I could
Okay.
go to back to sharing my screen.
Okay, yep, I just turned mine off. So while you're
Mhm.
looking to do that, I just wanted to explain to folks that so AMATS is funding this safety campaign, and this was part of the campaign that we're working with Center for Safe Alaskans to do these awesome videos. So we're going to put them up on the website, and we can't wait to use them. They're brand new, and we really appreciate they got these going for us in like less than a month. So thank you to you guys for that.
It was really fascinating the amount of interest folks had in wanting to participate and be part of kind of humanizing who we all are and who we are, who's on the street, who's walking, who's cycling. And one of the other things that we did last year similarly was using all of our work's data driven. So, and I want to also make a plug for the municipality website where you can pull up heat maps and get lots of great data. You can do some querying, and it's great. And one of the things that helped us with was looking at where are some of the areas where there are high conflict or a lot of pedestrian and bicyclist injuries and crashes. And within those areas, then we looked at where are the coffee shops near there, because it's really hard to reach drivers. And one of the ways we thought of doing it was with coffee sleeves that would be given out at drive-through coffee shops. So people would immediately be given this information about some things to do, and really trying to, same idea, look out for each other, drive like your loved one is crossing the street, trying to create community connections with all of us who are shared road users. As a driver, cyclist, and pedestrian, I know my attitude changes on the different modes of transportation that I'm using. So, it's hard, but I think over the course of this period, the time that we're going to get to have work on this, there's a great opportunity to begin changing the culture, the norms, and creating more connectedness between multiple road users. I'm going to skip this one. Sam, sorry for skipping it. These are awesome, and they're going to be available, and we're also going to work on continuing the campaign to connect pedestrian or drivers to pedestrians. some of the other things that are important, so that kind of perception culture, that's a long-term initiative, but also changing behaviors is important. And like Scott said, pedestrians have to be seen, and there's some ways that we can go about making sure that happens. One is with reflective tape, reflective iron-on, promoting helmet use. That's not so much about being seen, but it's certainly a component of being safer as a cyclist. And so making sure that our most vulnerable road users are visible to drivers, so that it's, even if unhealthy choices are made, at least a driver has an opportunity to see somebody who's maybe mid-block crossing, which we saw also in the data tends to be a high percentage of pedestrian pedestrian crashes. We also did a fun little word cloud thinking about what are some of the ways that we can change behavior to make pedestrians and cyclists safer. And some of it is without stigmatizing or destigmatizing folks who are on the street walking or cycling, a lot who don't actually have access to a vehicle for multiple reasons. Thinking about mid-block crossing, what's happening there? How can we make that safer? And the increased lighting that's going in by the rescue mission is a huge piece of improving the safety around there. Also, just promoting making eye contact. I know a lot of regular cyclists, that's part of what you do when you're at an intersection and that right hook is waiting for you while somebody's turning right. And I saw the comments about the double right turn lane. As much as possible, promoting making eye contact, not just for the pedestrian, for the vulnerable road user, but also for the drivers. If they, as a driver, when we're turning right, we tend to just look left to see traffic coming towards us. It's important to also look right and see who's legitimately, legally, and should be safely using the in the crosswalk. So those are some of the things we've got going on. We're excited to be data-driven, like we've been hearing. We have access, we've been using crash reports, and we also use trauma registry. So we can see not only the situation where something happened, which is really important at focusing on engineering changes, but we can see some of the stories, some of the outcome. Like for instance, we know that pedestrian injuries are way more expensive in a hospital as hospitalized patients, even more so than bicyclists. And so using all these kinds of pieces of data to figure out what are people doing, how can something change to make that behavior change is exciting for us. And we're looking forward to getting to work on this some more, and for all of your input and ideas, because it's not what we think, it's really how we want to reach, who we want to reach, and with what messaging is important to get input on that. So on that, I'm going to figure out how to stop sharing and let Joni move on with the agenda.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcia. That was awesome. Good presentation, and that video is great. So we're, again, as I mentioned, we're super excited to put that up on our website. I'm just going to go back now to our to the slideshow. Oh, for my last few slides. So I may just keep this on. So we did the last poll, talked about the survey results. So we're actually on time. Yay, us. We're on time for our discussion and Q&A section. And I just want to, before we jump into that, I just remind folks again that tomorrow we will have the follow-up survey posted on the website, and we will also send an email out to everyone who read or who signed it tonight in the sign-up sheet. So if you haven't signed in yet, please go to the chat box. If someone posted the link in there again, and I can repost it now, but please sign in and include your email in there so we can email you a follow-up survey tomorrow, or go online tomorrow here and take the follow-up survey to engage with us. Yeah, just one last thing. We wanted to make sure that you could use the results from this forum or the ideas that were discussed as a tool to help advocate for more funding, for better safety. And we're going to be putting together a report from this forum that will go forward, that community people can use to advocate for safety to their local policymakers and state policymakers too. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just get into the chat box. If you have a question and you would like to just vocalize your question, we're going to go ahead and take those first. But if we don't have anyone who wants to speak a question, we'll go ahead and start reading through our questions in the order that they were presented to us. But it looks like we have Emily on the line with our BPAC committee. Emily, go for it.
Thanks, Joni. Yeah, thanks everybody for these presentations. It's really great to hear what's going on. So I have a two-part question that's for Scott and Brad, and maybe anybody else who would like to chime in. So we've talked about how we need better maintenance and we also need better infrastructure. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how the public can get involved in terms of like, who do we call? So do we call our state legislators? Do we call the mayor? Who do we call for maintenance as one, and then for those permanent changes for the other?
I could jump in on the state side and then Brad could add. Yeah, the maintenance crews are using every tool they have. And someone did mention in the chat that just coordinating with the city maintenance section can make us efficient, but they run out of equipment and operators, I wrote in the chat. So we actually briefed the Senate Transportation Committee, and one of the big needs is just we have one of the lowest gas taxes in the country, and we all get what we pay for. And I'm not in charge of that, and I'm not lobbying for anything, but we, the residents, get the maintenance that we bring at the city level, the state level. It doesn't come from our main source of money, which is federal highway funds. So on the maintenance side, I would say talk to your representatives, your local officials, and just say, how can we all chip in to do better?
Yeah, and so I would say on the Muni side, the Muni is about to start a right-of-way management study that's going to be looking a lot at how do we maintain our right-of-way, both snow maintenance, that's going to be a big part of it. Now we are looking at ways to involve the state in that so that we can collaborate. And at least my vision for that plan is that by the end of it, we should have a consistent understanding between all the members of the public and the different agency members as to how all of the moving parts affect it. Part of that's being driven by the removal of parking minimums and the concern that that will push more vehicles onto the street, which will then make it harder to plow the snow and just cause additional maintenance challenges. But also trying to think of just all the different pieces and how they affect. So, but your question, I guess, is who to contact. I would say, as these projects do come along, to be aware of them and to use those processes to be engaged, I think is the best thing to do. Our assembly members were the ones that provided the funding for this right-of-way management study, so involving them is good. I know that the biggest challenge right now for our street maintenance group is actually finding staff. So we've got lots of open positions, and I know that they're looking for ways to be able to fill those. Increasing salaries is something that I know that they're talking about, looking for ways to creatively address the CDL licensure. So I'm not sure contacting them will be as helpful because I know that they are really trying to address all of that. But letting the mayor know that this is a priority isn't a bad thing to do either. So it is being addressed in lots of those different fronts. But especially the right-of-way management study, I think, is the key one that is the time when everyone needs to be engaged.
Thanks, Brad. And it looks like we've got Paul Van Landingham with our municipal maintenance department. Got his hand up. Hey,
Yes,
Paul.
Hello, how are you? Thank you.
Good.
Just wanted to ensure everybody that pedestrian facilities and winter maintenance and summer maintenance remains a priority one for us. One thing that's been changing pretty rapidly over the years and what we're trying to put our hands around is the actual defined expectations of the public and all of the user groups so we can collectively work those into our snow plans. As Brad mentioned, currently we're looking for operators. A lot of our equipment is touching 20 years old. We got 3 new sidewalk tractors this year. We're scheduled to receive 5 more this coming winter, so that'll give us 8 new ones to replace existing ones, not to add to our fleet. And then hopefully over the next 3 years, we'll get another 6 or 7, which will update our entire sidewalk plowing fleet up to the 14 that we currently have. And then as we move forward, my guesses are that we will be looking for more people and more equipment and more time to clear these networks. But with Brad on board now, and as Scott says, the coordination between the DOT and us happens weekly. I mean, we work together the best that we can to identify the needs for everybody. But I think the biggest issue ahead of us right now in the near term is actually defining expectations and getting everybody in a room like this and identifying what's reality and then what is something that we'll need to work for long term. But like I said, I'd like to assure everybody that when we're out plowing streets, priority one also for us, along with the streets, are all of our sidewalks and bike trails. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, no, that's great. I know that we at the maintenance forum that we had recently or this past year, we did, present some data. And so we have identified that through the non-motorized plan, those prioritized pedestrian corridors. So, but yeah, we are happy to help and always want to work with whoever to help get funding or improve your staffing, number of equipment that you have, the newness of your equipment, anything we can do to help, we would love to do that. So just let us know. It looks like Nancy Pease has her hand up. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited to hear about the project, the pilot project that Brad discussed to use protected lanes. I'm hopeful that that approach can be tried in other areas of town in the near future. And one area I'd like to nominate is Brayton Drive. I question why there needs to be a 2-lane, one-way access road when with an attached bike lane, and cars routinely drive 50 miles an hour. And of course, they're doing lane changes because it's 2 lanes. And that seems to me like an ideal place to do another pilot project. And there have been fatalities on several parts of Brayton Drive. And then I think I'd also hope that there will be additional attention to road projects that are currently overscaled for our traffic and our population projections. And I'm thinking of the Seward Highway between Diamond and O'Malley, which fortuitously has slipped a year in the schedule. So we have additional time to rethink what safety means in that corridor. And of course, that involves Brayton Drive and also a potential pedestrian-only underpass at 92nd. So I'd like to put those forward as really worthy pilot projects and model projects for pedestrian and bike safety and convenience, and not necessarily tied to vehicle capacity expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, yes, when we have, or did we have anyone that wanted to respond to Nancy's comments on Brayton Drive, or should I just move on? No? Okay, I'm gonna,
I can just say
go ahead. Go ahead.
Great ideas. We'll write them down and look into them as options. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Brad. Oh, yep, Scott Thomas has got his hand up real quick. We also have one other person, but go ahead, Scott.
Okay, just real quick. Yeah, Brayton Drive, of course, used to be 2 lanes, like Nancy said, with no shoulders, no facilities. So it's great. It's getting facilities. And I appreciate her point is that can we repurpose space, which is a lot of what we talked about in the chat bar. A lot of that was called reserve capacity in case something happened on the freeway, but I would agree with you, Nancy, it may not be needed on a daily basis. Therefore, Brad's concept of pilot projects could apply to something like Brayton, just to see tests. We've done demonstrations. Tests are a good thing before locking in a lot of project work.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And then we've got Adam Leeds, his hand up.
Thank you. I have one comment and one question. So thinking about our infrastructure overall, I live in University area now. I used to live down in Rabbit Creek, and I commuted by bike and from both places. And one thing I can tell you is if we're talking about infrastructure, you know, maintenance definitely, but one big part of it is reliability, and our sidewalks aren't reliable, and not just because they're usually not maintained well, and I don't mean just snow, ice, and cracks. They stop and start at very odd random places or have very tight turns. And de facto, especially on the big roads, they're the bike paths, because I'm sorry, there's no way in heck I'm putting my bike onto Northern Lights at any point in time. So you wind up with this scenario where all of a sudden you're walking, bam, it ends, or you're driving a bike and, oh, great, now there's no sidewalk. Like all up Seward Highway when it splits into Inger and Gamble, there's no sidewalks on several parts of that, so that you can see the trails people are actually walking. And I saw it on the pedestrian map, there was just this blank area that it wasn't measuring, but there are people walking there. There's just no sidewalks. And then being in University area, we're also doing our destination UMed, which is looking at all the transportation options in, through, and around our neighborhoods. And I'm wondering how much coordination and communication is there between this specific committee and then all the rest of them? Because we have about dozens of plans all covering very similar things in one area. And I'm wondering when those are all getting written and updated, how much they're talking to each other. So we're either not reinventing the wheel or wind up with, different organizing plans that may actually wind up working against each other.
Yeah, so that's your question? I can answer that, Adam. So your comment was about the sidewalks and sort of lack of connectivity and start and stop and connection. And then your question is about plan coordination, is that right?
That does it, I think.
Okay, great. Yep. So I can answer your question. So we do coordinate in this department. So transportation planning, we obviously are coordinating with John Cecil, who's doing the UMed district plan. So anytime the plan is up for or any deliverable of the plan needs a review or participation from our group, we can definitely review comments and or attend meetings. Our plans do work together in the sense that our overarching metropolitan transportation plan sets our big goals, and then like the non-motorized plan, which I was working on, which we completed about a year ago, that's specific to non-motorized. And so those big goals from that plan are fed into the UMed plan as it's being developed. So it's sort of a staggering thing. So like depending on which plan is most recent, the goals and policies and objectives of that plan is fed into whatever newest plan is being developed. So that's kind of how we are coordinating, and we're doing a pretty good job, I think, of coordinating all of our plans. And we're even coordinating in the sense that the policies and goals and the overarching plans are getting fed into the smaller plans, which are then getting fed into our TIP, which is our AMETS's big tool that funds projects. So we're able to, like, for example, with the non-motorized plan, we identified prioritized projects, pedestrian corridors and bicycle projects. And we gathered information to prioritize those particular projects by gathering feedback during the planning process, but also reviewing existing plans that were already there or were in development. And so I think, yeah, we actually do a very good job of coordinating all of our different plan efforts, so that we're not developing one thing, trying to reinvent the wheel and do something else. So I mean, it is challenging, so we do have a lot of plans, and we also coordinate with long range planning as well with their planning with Land Use 2040 that was adopted. So that element was also implemented into our TIP criteria, which goes into scoring projects, which goes into funding projects. So it all feeds into each other. I think what we need probably is a big infographic so that you can see how all the plans are talking to each other. But and in terms of the committee, sorry, I know last thing I'll say, the committees coordinate. They coordinate, so John, who's leading the UMed district plan, will come and present to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which he did twice this year. And so he'll come and present and give them a chance to provide feedback and comment on his planning efforts. And so that's kind of how that's coordinated on that end. So hopefully, does that answer your question?
Yep, and provides a good amount of reassurance because there are tons of plans.
Great. Yes, it's for sure. There is a method to the madness. So appreciate your perspective. I don't see any other hands raised. Does anyone want to raise it real fast, or we will we can somebody is, I think Cheryl, maybe Cheryl, need to mute you. I'm gonna mute you. Okay. Oh, CB Brady, great. CB Brady has got his hand raised. CB.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. This has been a great meeting. I want to thank you, Joni, AMATS, BPAC, which I'm a member of, also a member of Public Transit Advisory Board. I want to thank Safe Alaskans. I didn't know of you before. This is awesome. And everybody who's attending. So thanks. I believe the only thing that's holding us back from all this greatness that Brad, you showed some awesome slides. I think Emily, she does things through social media. It's all awesome, but it all depends on maintenance. And if we want to increase ridership and pedestrian travel, we have to maintain what we have. And creating new great things has to include maintenance. And as a blind guy, if nobody knows, I'm a blind guy and I walk every day and that's all I do. And I take public transportation. Scott was very clear. There's no money. And so somehow as this group, we all care about the same thing. We all want it better, but we're not even providing the lowest common denominator to get to the bus right now. And it's a money thing. And I feel like we've kind of avoided that tonight. And I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer or I don't mean to say it like that, but just, I don't want to be the downer. But we need to focus on getting the sidewalks and the paths clear if we want to increase ridership, pedestrian travel, and bike travel. Thanks, Joni.
Thank you, CB. Yes, no, agreed. Absolutely agreed. And I also think that in addition to money, it is a prioritization issue and a culture shift that needs to happen. So I feel like this momentum that's building, one of the major objectives and why the BPAC wanted to host this forum was because they wanted to provide some sort of like overarching tool, report, something to, again, as I mentioned before, take to policy makers to make the argument that this is really a time for a shift in how we prioritize our funding for safety and for winter maintenance. And we want to make sure people we want to make sure we have the funding, the resources, the people, the staff to do a good job on maintenance and make, even in our heaviest snow years, this year was definitely a doozy, to make sure that everyone can get out and walk around safely during the winter, and get around, because, especially for people who don't have access to a vehicle or don't drive for whatever reason, they are depending on us to create that safety for them. Brad, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in on that, and those are good points, CB. I'm really hopeful that this right-of-way management study will provide some opportunities to be able to give the resources to our maintenance group that I know, as Paul was saying, is looking for clear expectations. Also thinking about how our designs, I envision with some of the new staff that I am putting in place, I'm really mindful of what designs can we better maintain. Right now, if you look at any of our projects, there's only ever a summer cross section. This is what it's going to look like in the summer. There's not ever any winter cross section. And so I'm hoping that we can change that so that we can be able to show this is how this design will affect the snow maintenance team. And ideally, with our capital funds, if we can build a system that allows for the more efficient maintenance, so that Paul's team isn't having to go around obstacles, if and knows where they're going to put the snow, so that that's not an afterthought and everything doesn't just require hauling, but can actually be really implemented, incorporated into the design. These are some of the things that I'm really hoping and am going to be thinking the most about in the right-of-way management study as it comes to that point, as we proceed into that project.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brad, and thanks, Joni. And just to finish off, and I don't like being rude or confrontational, so please don't take it this way, but we spend a lot of money on studies, and I feel like if we put a lot of money into maintenance, we wouldn't need a lot of studies. And it's just, if you walk every day to a bus stop, the bus stops are cleared. Public Transit Advisory or People Mover System, they do a good job, and there's not many of them. But to get there is so difficult. And that, I just feel like to me, that's the number one barrier for great public transportation, bike, pedestrian. So I don't want to complain anymore. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to just say the things that maybe I should say.
Yeah. No, we appreciate
And
that, CB. Sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
So the difference that I see with this study is that the main goal of this study in my mind is that it's bringing all the people together that need to be together talking about it. It's going to be collaborative, involving all the departments. It's not having some consultant go in and figure it all out and tell us what we need to do, but it's instead going to be bringing all the different departments together, talking about, and like bringing us all to the same table so that we all know how all of what we do affects each other, so that maintenance can come and say, hey, when you design it this way, this is what the impact is. Because it sounds like, we're missing some of that. So I don't necessarily view this as the same sort of study, but instead it's just a framework within which we have all the conversations that we need to have.
Okay, great. And I didn't mean to be rude like that, but hopefully it's people that are walking and biking included in that committee.
There will be a chance for the public to be part of that discussion, that project, because as Paul said, we need to know the expectations, and everybody needs to know, the public needs to know what our limitations are as well. And there's going to be trade-offs that are going to be have to be thought through really in depth, because at the end of that project, we need to be able to say, we aren't going to be able to do X. And everyone needs to recognize that that's just the limitation, and that's okay because we prioritized Y as something that's worth that trade-off for that. So it needs to be kind of full community buy-in, really, is what I will view as a successful project.
I'm just going to chime in a little bit on that point, specifically as well, because I think in what we, at the end of the maintenance forum, and then, you know, we've asked for it before too, but I think what would be most helpful for the community and for us as planning agencies is to get an estimate. And if we're talking about money and cost here, what we really want to see is we've prioritized corridors, we've prioritized where, we've done Vision Zero planning, we're doing a safety plan. We're putting a lot of money, as CB mentioned, into finding out where the areas are that need to be focused on, especially in terms of the winter maintenance. And so what would be most helpful as far as advocating and for this to just use this as a policy advocation tool is to know from, I think, the maintenance departments how much money, how much staff, how much more equipment, you know, what is it that they need to bring up the maintenance to a level that, you know, to a level that where people feel like it's functioning, they feel safe, you know, and I know it works well a lot of the times, and then, you know, we get dumped on and it's truly challenging. But I think for us as planning agency, just again, it would be really helpful to have cost estimates that we can't really, we don't know, we can't provide those as a planning agency. We need the maintenance departments to tell us how much money do you need, how much more staff, what equipment do you need to bring it up to a certain level. So hopefully in that study that you're talking about, Brad, that will be part of the deliverable that comes out of that, because I feel like we have asked for that, and that is what we need to use it as a tool to take to policymakers and ask them. But if we don't know how much money, how much more staff, how much more equipment that we need, we can't ask for anything. So that's all I think that we're asking for. So again, that'll be really helpful. So hopefully that'll come out of that study. And then looks like Paul's got his hand up. Again, go ahead, Paul.
Yes, respectfully, Joni, I know there's been a lot of work put into this, but me being the maintenance manager at street maintenance for 20 years, I still do not have a clear definition of the expectations. And then with the movement of protected bike lanes and things like that, it's difficult for us to estimate. And the answer that I've been giving and I'll continue to give is right now, I believe it's an unrealistic number in what it would take to meet all of the expectations of the user groups. So I will continue to advocate for more people, more money, but in talking with assembly folks, talking with community councils, talking with planning folks, the expectations are still blurry to us at maintenance. And I'm only speaking for the Muni, can't speak for DOT, but again, our numbers are shrinking, not growing, and every year we get further and further away from meeting our goals. So not sure where that information has went to in the past, but I look forward to re-engaging and finding these priorities and working on some numbers. But I will caution everybody that the numbers that I see throwing forward are going to be astronomical numbers.
Thanks, Paul. In just responding to that, we can certainly work to help provide expectations if that's what the maintenance department needs. So we can provide that as part of the report that we come up with as far as this forum, and certainly the safety plan and all the efforts that we've done. So we are happy to provide expectations or clear expectations, work on providing clear expectations for the maintenance department. So that's not a problem. So we are happy to do that. And we'll work on that, and we'll give the information to you. Thank you.
Sounds good. And another positive here is just recently in the last month or so, Brad and I have had and some folks from planning have went on a couple of field trips, and I believe Brad is correct in saying that we are actually, for the first time in recent memory, working collaboratively to get to an end result that everyone will be satisfied with.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you, Paul. It looks like, well, we've got Brad's hand up, CB's hand up, and Scott Thomas. So you guys just have to fight for it. Brad,
Yeah, what
you're
I'll
up.
say is that it's going to be an iterative process to define those expectations and find a reasonable dollar amount. And because there are going to be trade-offs. And so I am pushing for this right-of-way management study to be that platform, because we're bringing all the departments together. We're having this conversation Paul was talking about. We're going to have to make tough decisions. But I feel like all the right people are going to be in that room, especially as we involve the DOT in that too, so that they can be part of that conversation. So I am really excited about coming away with this answer that Paul and his team need and what the community is asking for.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you, Brad. Would love to hear that. Okay, so Scott Thomas or CB Brady. Let's I think CB, we had your hand up longer. CB, go for it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I don't like being a thorn in anybody's side. Everybody's doing a great job. I just think before we focus on bigger issues, we need to focus on what we already have. And I just really do want to thank everybody that's involved tonight, because you're taking time for something that's important. So thanks, Joni, and thanks, everyone.
Thank you, CB. You're never a thorn in anyone's side, so stop saying that. We appreciate your questions and comments. Okay, Scott.
I'm glad CB brought it up. I think he nailed it. Money is what makes projects happen. Money's what makes maintenance happen. And we all have to look and go, well, shoot, we might be putting in the least amount compared to other cities for what we do. And Paul's right too, that the total perfect system will maybe cost us more than we can all handle. So I wrote in the chat bar that once we were in Homer for a project and we showed people the budget was limited for 12 miles of Homer. And we just said, well, let's go work with unit costs. Let's work with what's a typical price, and then let people choose where they'd like to use that limited budget first. And so I appreciate what Paul said. We probably can't realistically go to people and say, we'd like enough money to do everything. And so we might have to say, here's our typical costs, and we're short on equipment. If we had a little more, we could do a little more. And where would you like that to be?
Yeah, I like that idea. And maybe something also to think about is maybe doing like a tiered approach. Like, this is maybe if we do nothing, this is our max amount. This is what we could, do in the middle, or to give folks, and so they can see, what more money would give them, like in terms of a first, second, and third choice, or something like that. If you guys are thinking about that, that would be interesting to me as a planner. But yeah, no, figuring out the amount of money that we need, we definitely want to do everything we can. So we're about at 8 minutes over, and I just want to thank everyone again, because there's, I think, 27 people still on this call, and it's a Monday night. And so really just thankful that everyone took time out of their evening to join us tonight. Like I said, we will be creating a report, doing a follow-up survey, and hopefully providing a tool that folks can again use to take to their policymakers to help advocate for more money for safety. And yeah, and we'll go through and log all the comments in the chat box. Thank you to everyone for contributing to that tonight. So unless there's any other questions, I just want to say thanks again. And I think, is my screen still, you guys can still see my screen, huh? Great. Well, I didn't realize that. But anyway, okay, if there's no other questions, everyone have a wonderful night. Keep your eyes peeled for the survey. Actually, I'll stop sharing my screen now. There we go. Keep your eyes peeled for the survey, and And we'll send you a shout out soon, and we will finalize everything report and send it to all the participants as well as post it on our website. And just one last plug for the safety plan. We do have an open house happening in September. So I know that's a ways off, but it's coming up. So put your fishing or your hunting plans aside and come to that open house. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone so much. Have a great night. Be safe
Thank you,
out there.
Joni.
We'll see you out there on the trails. Thank you, everyone. Bye.